Blood drained from Senator James Harrison's face as his mistress strode into the courtroom wearing the same red dress from the surveillance footage, his perfect alibi for his wife's murder beginning to crack like thin ice. The tension in the room could be cut with a knife as all eyes followed Victoria Rees, making her way to the witness stand, her stilettos echoing against the marble floor like a ticking time bomb. Harrison gripped the edge of his desk so hard his knuckles turned white while his star defense attorney Michael Thorne scrambled through his papers, desperately searching for anything to discredit the unexpected witness. District Attorney Sarah Chen allowed herself a small smile, knowing this moment would shatter the carefully constructed facade of one of the most powerful men in Washington. Victoria had been their ace in the hole, kept secret until this precise moment when Harrison would have nowhere to run. The jury leaned forward in their seats as if drawn by an invisible force. Their earlier boredom replaced by rapt attention. Even Judge Thompson set aside his usual stoic expression, his eyes darting between Harrison and his former lover. The courtroom sketch artist's pencils flew across their pads, capturing the senator's unraveling composure as his perfectly pressed suit seemed to wilt under the weight of impending doom. Victoria took her oath, her voice steady and clear, cutting through the thick silence like a knife. Her red dress, matching the color of Sarah Harrison's blood found splattered across the master's bedroom, where she'd been discovered 3 months ago. Harrison's son Timothy, sitting in the front row behind the prosecution, buried his face in his hands, unable to look at either his father or the woman who had helped orchestrate his mother's death. Detective Rodriguez slipped into the courtroom, taking a seat near the back, his weathered face showing satisfaction after months of piecing together the evidence that led to this moment. Victoria adjusted the microphone, her manicured nails catching the fluorescent light as she prepared to reveal every dark secret, every calculated move, and every whispered plan that had led to that fatal night. Security tightened their formation around the courtroom as Harrison showed signs of increasing agitation, his right leg bouncing uncontrollably under the table, while his lawyer whispered frantically in his ear, trying to prepare for the tsunami of revelations about to crash into their defense strategy. The gallery held its collective breath as District Attorney Chen approached the witness stand, her first question hanging in the air like a sword of Damocles. Reeves, could you please tell the court where you were on the night of March 15th? And who you were with? Victoria looked directly at Harrison, her red lips curving into a slight smile that sent visible shivers down his spine as she leaned toward the microphone, ready to destroy the alibi. Had spent millions crafting the rat's nest of lies, had woven the image of a grieving husband, had portrayed, and the political career had built over 3 decades of careful manipulation and calculated deception. Harrison watched his world beginning to crumble as Victoria opened her mouth to speak, knowing that what came next would turn his perfect alibi into perfect evidence of premeditated murder. The prosecution's forensics expert projected microscopic fibers found in Sarah Harrison's throat, matching the senator's custom Italian suit, while defense attorney Parker nervously loosened his collar, realizing their entire timeline was about to implode. Miranda Chen stood confidently before the projection screen, highlighting the distinctive silk patterns that could only come from a Kitten K50 handmade suit costing over $30,000, specifically the limited edition charcoal gray piece Harrison had been wearing the night of the murder. Parker frantically flipped through his notes, searching for their alibi documentation, claiming Harrison had been at a fundraising dinner during the estimated time of death. But the forensic timeline was shifting earlier based on Dr. Chen's revolutionary analysis of lividity patterns and tissue decomposition. The jury scribbled notes furiously as she explained how the unique dye composition in the fibers could be traced to a specific batch of fabric made exclusively for 10 suits worldwide. Harrison shifted uncomfortably in his chair as Dar Chen revealed purchase records showing he owned one of those 10 suits, the same suit that had been mysteriously sent to a dry cleaner the morning after Sarah Harrison's death. Assistant District Attorney Marcus Rodriguez approached the evidence table, lifting a sealed bag containing the senator's suit, the fibers glowing under the specialized UV light, exactly matching those found embedded in the victim's throat during autopsy. Defense Attorney Parker attempted to object, citing improper evidence handling, but Judge Thompson swiftly overruled as Dar Chen presented an unbroken chain of custody. Harrison watched helplessly as his carefully constructed timeline crumbled, the jurors' faces showing growing skepticism about his innocent grieving husband narrative. Dar Chen proceeded to demonstrate how the force required to embed such fibers matched the killer's height and strength, perfectly aligning with the senator's physical build while eliminating their original suspect, the hired hitman, who stood several inches shorter. Detective Rodriguez nodded from the gallery, remembering how had initially missed this crucial detail. focusing instead on following the money trail that led to the hitman Parker desperately tried to suggest cross-contamination from an earlier innocent encounter between Harrison and his wife, but Dr. Shen systematically destroyed that theory, showing how the fiber patterns could only have been created during a violent struggle. Sarah Harrison's daughter began to sob quietly in the gallery as security camera footage showed her father wearing that exact suit entering their gated community at exactly 9:05 p.m., the newly established time of death. Based on Dr. Chen's breakthrough analysis, Harrison loosened his tie, his confidence visibly shaken as Rodriguez approached with another evidence bag containing GPS data from his car's computer system, about to destroy his dinner alibi completely. The prosecutor's knowing smile suggested even more damning evidence was yet to come, while Parker desperately whispered to his legal team, searching for any way to discredit the forensic testimony that was methodically destroying their defense strategy piece by piece. Gasps filled the courtroom as cell tower data revealed the burner phone used to hire the hitman had pinged from the senator's private yacht during a supposedly airtight congressional meeting. His smug expression finally wavering. Tech expert Dr. James Wong methodically walked the jury through a complex web of digital breadcrumbs that placed Harrison exactly where he claimed he couldn't possibly have been. Security footage from the marina showed a hooded figure matching his build boarding the yacht at midnight, while cellular data captured a series of encrypted calls to the hitman. Marcus Stone. Judge Thompson leaned forward intently as Wong demonstrated how Harrison had attempted to use a congressional alibi, believing the closed-door Intelligence Committee meeting would shield him from scrutiny. The had forgotten about the yacht's automated navigation system silently recording its location every 30 seconds. District Attorney Chen projected a damning timeline showing the yacht anchored in a secluded cove precisely when Stone confirmed receiving his final instructions. Harrison's lawyer slumped in his chair as Wong revealed how they had cracked the encrypted messages using a breakthrough in quantum computing technology developed specifically for this case. The messages leaving no doubt about Harrison's direct involvement in orchestrating his wife's murder. Timothy Harrison, watching from the gallery, grew visibly pale as explicit details of his father's plot emerged, including contingency plans to frame the family butler if anything went wrong. Detective Rodriguez smirked, remembering how Harrison had confidently proclaimed his innocence during initial questioning, certain his technical precautions would protect him from detection. Wong proceeded to demonstrate how Harrison had underestimated modern forensic technology, attempting to use an outdated GPS spoofing technique that actually created additional evidence of his guilt. The jury appeared mesmerized as Wong unveiled a three-dimensional digital reconstruction showing Harrison's movements that night, combining cell tower data, satellite imagery, facial recognition from traffic cameras, and witness statements into an irrefutable timeline. Victoria Reeves shifted uncomfortably in her seat as Wong revealed how her own phone had connected to the same cell tower, suggesting her involvement ran deeper than previously admitted. Harrison finally showed the first cracks in his composed facade as Wong presented evidence of a sophisticated money laundering operation used to pay Stone, linking directly to offshore accounts Harrison had believed were untraceable. The prosecution team exchanged knowing looks as Wong prepared to reveal the final piece of digital evidence, a recorded conversation captured by the yacht's automated systems that would remove any lingering doubt about Harrison's guilt. Sarah Harrison's teenage daughter broke down, describing how she discovered her father's affair through a series of explicit emails accidentally sent to their family iPad, the murder motive becoming crystal clear to the riveted jury. 15-year-old Emily Harrison trembled as she recounted that fateful morning when she had borrowed her mother's iPad for a school project, only to be flooded with hundreds of intimate messages between her father and Victoria Reeves. District Attorney Chen guided Emily gently through her testimony as she described how the emails revealed not just the affair, but elaborate plans to eliminate her mother. Photos showed Victoria modeling the expensive jewelry and designer clothes Harrison had purchased with funds drained from his wife's inheritance account. Emily clutched a tissue as security footage played, showing her father and Victoria entering luxury hotels on dates that matched his supposed late-night Senate sessions. Her mother's suspicions had been right all along. Detective Rodriguez watched Emily, carefully remembering how Shed first approached him with the iPad, providing the crucial breakthrough in a case that had initially appeared to be a random home invasion. Emily described finding messages discussing life insurance policies, offshore accounts, and detailed discussions about how Victoria would help Harrison rebuild his public image after an appropriate mourning period. The jury visibly recoiled as Emily shared screenshots of Victoria and Harrison, planning their future together while simultaneously plotting her mother's elimination. Emily revealed how Shed confronted her father, showing him the emails only to have him delete the iPad remotely and gaslight her into believing Shed imagined everything, but Shed already backed up the crucial evidence to a secret cloud account. Judge Thompson called a brief recess as Emily broke down, describing how Shed tried to warn her mother, but Sarah Harrison had been killed before Emily could reveal the truth. Victoria Reeves stared daggers at the teenager, while Harrison appeared to age decades as his daughter's testimony destroyed any remaining sympathy the jury might have had for him. Timothy Harrison moved to comfort his sister, while their father's defense team huddled, desperately seeking any way to discredit the devastating evidence presented through the innocence of a child whose world had been shattered by betrayal and murder. Assistant DA Rodriguez prepared to present the financial records that would confirm every detail of Emily's testimony, showing how Harrison had systematically drained accounts, planning for his new life with Victoria while ensuring his wife would never live to challenge him. The hitman turned state's witness detailed how Senator Harrison had orchestrated the murder during a secret meeting in an underground parking garage, paying with unmarked bills from his campaign's hidden slush fund. Marcus Stone looked nothing like a killer in his pressed prison uniform as he calmly described the meticulous planning that went into Sarah Harrison's murder, showing how the senator had provided detailed floor plan security codes and his wife's exact schedule. Detective Rodriguez watched Stone, carefully remembering their tense negotiation for immunity as Stone demonstrated using courthouse exhibits exactly how Harrison had passed him the money through a series of dead drops coordinated via encrypted messages. The jury leaned forward, captivated, as Stone revealed how Harrison had insisted on specific details about how his wife should suffer, wanting it to appear personal rather than professional. District Attorney Chen displayed security footage showing Harrison entering the parking garage at precise times, matching Stone's testimony, while bank records revealed systematic cash withdrawals structured to avoid detection. Judge Thompson studied the evidence as Stone explained how Harrison had created a sophisticated alibi system using body doubles and timing their movements to fool security cameras. Stone described Harrison's cold calculation during their meetings, discussing his wife's murder as casually as planning a business merger. Victoria Reeves shifted uncomfortably as Stone revealed her role in providing crucial information about Sarah Harrison's routines and security habits. Timothy Harrison gripped his sister's hand tightly as Stone detailed the backup plans Harrison had created, including multiple escape routes and contingency strategies if anything went wrong. The prosecution team methodically connected Stone's testimony to their physical evidence, showing how each detail aligned perfectly with their timeline. Emily Harrison fought back tears as Stone described her father testing different scenarios, ensuring the crime would appear as a robbery gone wrong. Rodriguez presented financial records proving how Harrison had systematically withdrawn over $2 million in untraceable cash using a network of shell companies. Stone explained how the senator had promised additional payment once he remarried Victoria, demonstrating an intricate scheme to access Sarah Harrison's life insurance payout. Defense attorney Parker appeared defeated as Stone produced recorded conversations carefully preserved as insurance against betrayal, showing Harrison micromanaging every aspect of his wife's planned demise. A tech expert demonstrated how Harrison had manipulated his phone's GPS data to create a false alibi, while security footage showed his car entering a tunnel, but a different car with switched plates emerging on the other side. Cyber forensics specialist Dr. Maya Patel, commanding the courtroom's attention, exhibited surveillance footage from 6 different cameras tracking Harrison's elaborate deception. The jury watched transfixed as she explained how Harrison had used a sophisticated GPS spoofing device to make his phone appear at the congressional meeting while he was actually across town meeting Stone. Timothy Harrison sank deeper into his seat as Dar Patel revealed how his father had recruited a body double driving an identical black Mercedes to establish his false location. The prosecution displayed split-screen footage showing 2 identical vehicles, one driven by Harrison and another by an unknown accomplice, precisely timing their movements through the city's tunnel system. Judge Thompson studied the technical diagrams as Dar Patel demonstrated how Harrison had synchronized his movements with traffic patterns to avoid suspicion. Detective Rodriguez nodded appreciatively, remembering how this breakthrough had solved their initial timeline inconsistencies. Victoria Reeves' face turned ashen as Dar Patel revealed cell tower data, proving she had coordinated the vehicle switch from a nearby parking structure. Emily Harrison watched horrified, as the evidence showed her father had spent months planning the deception, testing different routes and timing patterns to perfect his scheme. Darpatal proceeded to dismantle Harrison's alibi piece by piece, showing how he had used advanced technology to create digital breadcrumbs leading away from the crime scene, while security cameras caught his actual movements in the opposite direction. Defense attorney Parker frantically objected to the technical evidence, but Darpatal systematically proved its authenticity through blockchain verification. Assistant DHN smiled confidently as Darpatal prepared to reveal traffic camera footage showing Harrison arriving at his wife's location exactly 17 minutes before her estimated time of death, the jury furiously taking notes as the prosecutor's case transformed from circumstantial to irrefutable. Harrison tugged at his collar as his elaborate scheme unraveled on the giant courthouse screens. The mistress revealed Harrison had promised to marry her once his wife was gone, showing text messages where he detailed the perfect murder plot, believing their encrypted messaging app was untraceable. Victoria Reese's voice dripped with bitterness as she exposed intimate details of her 3-year affair with Harrison, describing late-night meetings where they plotted Sarah Harrison's elimination between champagne and caviar. District Attorney Chen projected hundreds of messages showing Harrison repeatedly promising Victoria she would soon be the new Mrs. Harrison living in their Hamptons estate once his troublesome wife was permanently removed from the equation. Emily Harrison sobbed quietly as Victoria described how Shed helped choose the date of her mother's murder, timing it perfectly with a planned charity gala that would provide Harrison his congressional alibi. Detective Rodriguez displayed financial records showing Harrison had already purchased a 10-carat engagement ring hidden in his offshore account, while simultaneously researching untraceable poisons. Timothy Harrison stormed out of the courtroom as Victoria revealed how Shed helped Harrison scout potential hitmen, eventually connecting him with Marcus Stone. Through her own criminal connections, Judge Thompson studied the message timestamps as Victoria detailed their elaborate code system, discussing murder plans disguised as innocent dinner reservations and theater dates. Defense attorney Parker slumped further in his chair as Victoria produced videos Shed secretly recorded showing Harrison methodically planning each aspect of his wife's demise. Assistant DA Rodriguez smiled grimly as Victoria explained how Shed kept the recordings as insurance against Harrison, eventually betraying her. The jury appeared stunned as Victoria played a recording of Harrison laughing while discussing how they'd spend his wife's life insurance payout. Harrison lunged toward Victoria but was quickly restrained by Bayless, as she revealed had already asked her to try on his wife's favorite jewelry, plotting which pieces to keep and which to report stolen during the staged robbery. Emily Harrison whispered murderer as Victoria described helping her father select the perfect date, ensuring maximum impact for his political career. Jurors watched transfixed as prosecutors played the victim's final voicemail describing her discovery of offshore accounts and her plans to expose Harrison's decades of corruption before her voice was suddenly silenced. Sarah Harrison's last message played through the courtroom speakers, her voice steady despite the fear as she detailed finding evidence of her husband's massive corruption scheme. District Attorney Chen stood motionless as the recording revealed how Sarah had discovered transfers worth millions flowing through a complex web of shell companies linked to Harrison and his political allies. Detective Rodriguez watched the jury's reactions as Sarah's voice explained how Shed traced money from defense contractors through offshore accounts, finally connecting to Harrison's private foundation. Timothy and Emily Harrison clung to each other as their mother's final words exposed how Shed found proof of their father's decades-long pattern of accepting bribes and kickbacks while manipulating legislative votes. Judge Thompson leaned forward intently as Sarah described photographing key documents and sending them to a secure location. Harrison visibly sweated as his wife's voice detailed how Shed discovered his connection to several mysterious deaths of potential whistleblowers over the years. Victoria Reese's pale face suggested Shed never known the full extent of Harrison's criminal empire, as Sarah's recording revealed connections to international crime syndicates and money laundering operations. The jury gasped collectively as Sarah described finding evidence linking Harrison to the disappearance of a journalist who'd been investigating defense contract irregularities. Assistant DA Rodriguez presented financial records confirming every detail of Sarah's discoveries, showing how Harrison had built a corrupt empire while maintaining a facade of public service. Defense attorney Parker appeared physically ill as Sarah's voice described her plans to expose everything to federal authorities. The next morning, Emily Harrison screamed as the recording captured the sound of her mother's door being broken down, followed by a struggle and then devastating silence. Judge Thompson called for order order as Harrison finally showed emotion, his face contorted with rage as his wife's final moments revealed the true monster behind his polished political mask. The gallery erupted as the jury foreman pronounced guilty on all counts, Harrison lunging at his former mistress before being tackled by bailiffs, his sons refusing to look at him as he was dragged away screaming about betrayal. Pandemonium broke loose in the courtroom as Harrison knocked over the defense table, charging toward Victoria Rees with murderous rage in his eyes. Chief Bailiff Johnson and his team responded with lightning speed, tackling the former senator before he could reach his target. District Attorney Chen watched calmly as Harrison thrashed against the restraints while the jury foreman continued reading guilty verdicts for 27 separate counts, including first-degree murder, conspiracy, racketeering, witness tampering, and corruption. Emily and Timothy Harrison turned their backs as their father screamed accusations of betrayal at Victoria, who sat unflinching under the protection of federal marshals. Judge Thompson banged his gavel, repeatedly trying to restore order as Harrison's supporters in the gallery clashed with victims' family members. Detective Rodriguez positioned himself between the chaos and the Harrison children, remembering his promise to Sarah to protect them. Assistant DA Marcus stepped forward, reading the sentencing recommendations, including 6 consecutive life terms without possibility of parole. Victoria Rees was immediately taken into protective custody as Harrison threatened to expose her own criminal activities. His carefully maintained political mask completely shattered, revealing the monster beneath. Harrison kicked and screamed as he was dragged toward the holding cells, his expensive suit torn in the struggle, while reporters sketched furiously, capturing every moment of his spectacular downfall. Judge Thompson set the sentencing hearing for the following week as Emily Harrison stepped forward, requesting permission to address the court about her mother's foundation for corruption whistleblowers. Timothy Harrison announced he would cooperate with ongoing investigations into his father's criminal empire, while Sarah Harrison's sister hugged both children, whispering that justice had finally been served. Detective Rodriguez collected the final piece of evidence, Sarah Harrison's hidden thumb drive containing proof of even more corruption, as Harrison disappeared into custody, still screaming threats and promises of revenge.